Well, good morning and good afternoon to our global audience, and welcome back to the Peterson Institute Macro Week. My name is Jacob Kierkegaard. I'm a senior fellow here at the Peterson Institute, and it is my distinct pleasure to welcome with me today at the Peterson stage and live around the world, the Minister of Economy and Finance, Carlos Fernández Valdovinos from Paraguay. And this is, as you may be aware, part of the Peterson Institute's concerted efforts to really give voices to third countries. And by that, we mean countries that are not the United States and not China. Because we feel that it's particularly relevant in this day and age of global geopolitical rivalries to really listen to what third countries have done and what policies they can affect where the world is going with. And therefore, it is quite natural for us, in fact, to welcome an economic success story to our podium today in Paraguay, which is, of course, one of the fastest growing economies in Latin America in the last decade. And with us to discuss that today is the Minister of Finance Fernández, who's really quite an extraordinary representative of his country. And when you read his bio, I have to say that it's particularly welcoming for you to come to a think tank, because I think that's pretty much the only task and job you haven't had. You have been the Minister of Finance in Paraguay since 2023. You have been the central bank governor from 2013 to 2018. You have been, in several instances, a professor of economics in Paraguay. You have a PhD in economics from the University of Chicago, and have also been a senior economist at both the World Bank and the IMF here in Washington, D.C., including a stint as the country representative for the IMF in Brazil and Bolivia in 2011. So this is truly a man, a Renaissance man who can speak of any aspect of economic policy, and we look forward to hearing your remarks. And following those remarks, we will have a short guided conversation between me and the minister, and then we will open it up for questions from the audience in the room. And without further ado, Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm going to try to do this quickly because we don't have enough time, and also there are some people following through the internet, through the web, so it's easier to do Q&A. A road to investment grade. Let me start with two things. This is my most famous X publication, more than 100,000, just to show the importance of this news for Paraguay. So we are investment grade. Plain simple, but was the news for the year since we came as government. But this has been a long, long way. Let me tell you an anecdote that usually the current president, Peña, always mentioned. He was member of the board, and he went to New York trying to place some bonds. The person who was there, and they were trying to convince about the good things about Paraguay, mentioned Paraguay doesn't exist. And he says, well, that is not true. Let me show you in the map. It's here between Argentina and Brazil. No, Paraguay doesn't exist. And how is that? Well, come with me. And they went to the Bloomberg terminal, and they tapped Paraguay and said, not found. Not found, because we didn't exist, really, for Bloomberg, because we were not at the market. We were not considered, not even investment grade. We were not considered a possibility for investment. So that was back in 2013. 10 years after, I believe that we exist, and we know, and the market knows now that we are investment grade. But have been a long, long period. And it was not easy. We were not a rising star or a permanent star from the beginning. As I always mentioned, not all past times were better in Paraguay. You look what was in the 90s, the economy was very fragile. Inflation very high, huge fiscal deficit, and a lot of poverty. more than 50% of poverty rate. So this is basically a failure state at the time. You look at the newspaper, these are in Spanish, but I have translation here, and you see Paraguay enter into the fall, or financial problems increase the country's risk rate. So this was Paraguay only 20 years ago. But then we decided to do something. We decided to come together as society and decided that we cannot continue like that because it's unacceptable that a country that is producing food for 100 million people and being only 6 million at this moment, we can have 50% of poverty rate. We came together. We know that it's not all, but it's important. It's the necessary condition, not sufficient, for development to have macro stability. And we started from then. We signed an agreement with the IMF in 2003, and from then, everything was improving. As I always mention also this, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. What we did in 2002 was a single step. And right now, 20 years after, we are actually reaping all the fruits. And what is important on public policy is not just a nice number in the IMF or World Bank report that will be released this year. What is important is the people. If we're doing something, it's because we are doing that for the people. So you can see here how we actually improve social conditions in the country. That 50% right now is 24% of all the population. Still high, 24%, again, continue to be unacceptable for a country producing a lot of food. But it's half the amount that we had 20 years ago. It's also, if you look at comparison numbers, is also the third lowest poverty rate in the region, in South America, following Chile and Uruguay. The third one is Paraguay. We are satisfied, we're not satisfied. But we have to continue to work as we did before, so that this 24 someday will be 12%, and then 6%. And then we may be more satisfied to the current situation than the current situation. The key, macro stability. That was the beginning of everything. And that was reflected on the different credit ratings that we receive over time. But we faced many challenges. It was not easy to achieve this. There were many attempts to destroy some institutionality at the central bank and at the Minister of Finance. This is in Spanish again, but this is in English. Some people, they try to do what some other countries that fail did before. That is using the international reserve of the central bank, for example, to do credit. That is a recipe for a failure. There were attempts. We survived those attempts. This is building institutionality at the central bank. And also we have some external shocks. You all know the global financial crisis, the pandemic, the drop in commodity prices, recession in Brazil and Argentina. We were able to sustain strong economic growth despite all these external factors and all these domestic factors or challenge. And if you look at the numbers, we really have double almost of the growth rate than the mean of LAC and lowest inflation rate, lower fiscal deficit compared to LAC median, and lower current account balance. So this is the macro. The macro was the key to our success at this point in time. Lately, we have several shocks that led to implementation of counter-cyclical policies. We cannot deny that we can do something on the public policy in order to tame what are the impacts of those shocks. But with activity gaining momentum, Paraguay, as a matter of fact, today the IMF released the numbers for this year and next year, and we are going to be the country that will grow the most again in the region. In the region meaning South America. The numbers, the current numbers indicate that really we are going to do a very good job this year in growth. This is going to be around 4%. So with this activity gaining momentum, we need to withdraw all the stimulus. And we throw in the stimulus is to tighten and normalize monetary and also fiscal policy. That is important for us. The key is to start building, again, the macroeconomic policy space. Key number 2, building institutions. We have 3 brand new Nobel Prizes talking about institutions, the importance of institutions, and we know that. An institution, we have macro institution and we have micro institution. The macro institutions, usually fiscal and monetary. We have an independent central bank, and on the fiscal side, we have a fiscal responsibility law that we comply with. So those 2 things are the base of our institution on the macro policy part. Macro stability, this is a book we launched in 2013. Look at the name of the book. Guarani, that is the national currency, 70 years of stability, a conquest of society. Some people, or many people, ask me, what is the secret of Paraguay? The secret of Paraguay is that society is going to be the first line of defense against crazy stuff doing at the macro. They're not going to accept an inflation rate that is 2-digit. Society is not going to accept a large fiscal deficit, leading to the need to finance through the central bank, or the need to finance in the market or in multilaterals that will lead, again, to problems in external debt in the future. For us, it's important to continue to build institutions. This is the reform agenda that we have during this administration, only 1 year and 2 months, and look at all the reforms that we did. This is part of our building of institution. Of course, we are looking at the future, having a national development plan, thinking about 2050. We're not thinking only in 2024, 2025, that we're doing very well. We, as Minister of Economy, that is a brand new ministry, we're looking into the medium to long term. So we are looking into 2050 at this point in time. A highlight here. Yes, we recognize we have problems. We recognize that we have a problem of perception. We recognize that we're not very well placed in some index. Example, transparency index. So given that, we know that we have to have a comprehensive national strategy against corruption. For the first time, 5 different government actors get together and develop a plan with crucial, 44 only, but 44 important initiatives that are measurable. They're not only enhance this or improve this, these are measurable. For example, passing a given law. So these ones all are available at the web, and all the society can follow what we're doing to fight corruption in our country. And this is quite impressive. You can look each of the 44 different objectives, and you can see the advance over there. 100% fully complete. 25%, 15%. I mean, you can follow day over day what are we doing regarding this national strategy to fight corruption. And this is building institution also. For the future, we believe we need strong, diversified economy to improve, again, the quality of life of the people. For that, we're satisfied with the current situation. Look at any number, do any average you want, we always did better than the region. And we're going to do in the short run better than the region too. But that is not enough. We need to do something else. We have extraordinary natural capital, water, fertile land, forest wealth, clean and renewable energy, and quite important for some industry, no natural disaster. We are already contributing to food security in the world, being in the top 10 of many of the different products, being that small, only 6 million people, but being, I don't know, number 3rd on soybean exporter, number 5th in soybean oil exporter. So it's incredible, the capacity, but we want to diversify. We don't want to be only this. We are going to be good at this in the future also, because we're good right now, we're going to be even better, but we want to diversify. We don't want to be only commodity exporter. So we are in a process of economic diversification. Just look at one thing, maquila export. Why is that important? Because that was the one that allowed us already to insert ourselves into Brazil, into the Brazilian market. Brazilian companies go to Paraguay through the maquila regime. They start producing, and they're resending the products to Brazil, free of taxes, because we have Mercosur. Maquila export right now represents a little bit more than 1.2 billion. Of course, nothing for US, but for Paraguay, it's almost 10% of total export. So if we continue with this trend, this is going to be the most important export for Paraguay, maquila. So what we offer is a country with very competitive costs and free access to Brazilian market. So imagine, some people ask me, probably you will ask me about China, US, China. Our China is next door. Our China is Brazil. So we don't care about what's going on over there. It's too far. For us, it's important, Brazil. We are diversifying. It's incredible, all new markets that we are discovering. I was talking to the Minister of Agriculture right now. He was saying that we are going to export onion to Argentina. Probably you don't understand how important is that. We always imported onion and tomatoes from Argentina. Many of them smuggled. For the first time ever. Last week, we exported tomatoes to Argentina. This Thursday, we're going to start exporting onions to Argentina. So again, we are trying to do new things in order to continue to sustain growth. We are attracting investment. These are some of the investment in different areas, different from the agro. Biofuels, e-mobility, green hydrogen, paper mill, forestry, thermal tidals. So more and more investment is going to Paraguay, and will go more because we need to create jobs. And we're investment grade, so we are offering competitive advantage there. So a plus that is also interesting. Many people want to be in 2050, by 2050, to have all the electricity generated by clean and renewable energy. Paraguay is already in 2050. We don't have any green transition because we are already where everyone wants to be. So we're using that. We negotiate with Brazil, also the tariff this year. It's going to be a lot of money for social investment, meaning social plus infrastructure, $650 million, thanks to the negotiation. But Brazil is, Itaipu is more than just a source of money, source of energy, source of money. It's going to be a sort of development for both countries. We're going to use the capacity that Itaipu has in order to promote different industry over there on a sustainable way. I always say Paraguay is really a country that have a different flag right now. It's not anymore red, white, and blue. It's red, white, blue, and green, because we have many things to offer and to show the world that we are really a sustainable economy. And we are working with multilateral in order to take advantage of new and innovative financing available to those who are working towards some, let's call, green targets. The IDB climate, we are one of the first pilot countries, and with the IMF RSF, we are the first South American country that signed an agreement with the IMF on this. Finally, people, because they are the important thing. I mean, again, it's important for public policies to really address people needs. We are really trying to put our money where it's most needed. Crucial sectors, and let me tell you what are the crucial sectors in our annual budget: education, health, security, and also social transfer. Those are the 4 sectors where we are now putting more money in order to reach the people who need the most, and also to prepare the people for whatever is coming, because there are so many things, so many changes coming, and you need more human capital. So we are putting more money on health and education going forward. We'll continue to strengthen our protection of the vulnerable people in the meantime, because there are people who are left behind and there is no way for them to get a decent job. Because for us, the best social policy is the one that creates jobs so that people can really earn money on wages instead of just giving them transfer. But some of them are not going to be able to get any job. So for that, we need to protect and also provide some assistance, social assistance to them. Overall, this has been a very quick presentation, and I told you the many good things that is Paraguay. But don't trust me. Don't trust me. Don't trust the central bank governor who is here. Just go there to Fundación Getúlio Vargas, a very well-known think tank from Brazil. And they're saying that Paraguay is the best place to invest, the best economic climate. And also, if you look at the Heritage Foundation, also we are one of the best on economic freedom rating. So we received an investment grade. Recently, there are only a few countries that receive investment grade after the pandemic, but this is only the starting of a new and more competitive race. Until we see that poverty rate going down, going only to 1 digit, we cannot be satisfied. We can be satisfied on the macro, but we cannot be satisfied if public policy doesn't reach all the people who need the most. Thank you very much.
That was very quick. Certainly, quickness and substance. And I think it's fair to say that when you come here to the Peterson Institute, which was the home of John Williamson for many years, I'm sure I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one in the audience who would have listened to you and heard a lot of the, if you like, frameworks, macroeconomic stability, social cohesion, of really the original Washington consensus. So for that alone, I would like to thank you for once again conveying that message from the Peterson podium. But I really would like, on that basis, also to say that as a country that really in many ways have succeeded by the pursuit of, for a lack of a better word, orthodox economics, to really show that this is a prescription that actually works if implemented competently over a long period of time. When you look around the world, I know you said don't talk so much about the United States, don't talk so much about China, but you don't even need to go that far. You look at the giants of your own region, Brazil, well, certainly Venezuela, but also, of course, your other neighbor, Argentina, and you see a lot of, shall we call them, unorthodox economic policies. How does a small trade-dependent open economy like yourself really position yourself in a world in which really the platform that you succeeded on is put under such political pressure and questioning in the region and globally?
Yeah, it's not easy. Let me start with saying something that we continuously repeat with the President Peña. We are in a tough neighborhood, surrounded by Brazil and Argentina. But we are in a tough neighborhood for the last 200 years. So since independence, it has been very tough for us to survive over there. And as any other disease, I mean, you get used to that and you know how to deal with a tough neighborhood. Paraguay is small, only 6 million population, but you have seen this very strong production capacity the country has. And continue to have, because we're not exploiting all the capacity of Itaipu, being a source of clean and renewable energy. So it's a question of continue to work on our strengths and fighting our weakness in order to be successful. The good thing about Paraguay and the key, I mean, many people ask me, what is the key for investment grade? And I say always sustained policy or persistent. This is a long, long run. It's a marathon, 42 kilometers marathon. It's not a race of 100 meters. So you have to continue to do your efforts in order to really be successful. It's not easy. We are a country who likes to integrate. We are a country who likes to be friend of everyone. That's the reason why when somebody asks us about China versus Taiwan, I mean, we have no problem negotiating with China. We have no problem negotiating with Taiwan. But the only thing is that if somebody wants to negotiate with me, but wants to choose who I have to have a beer with, we are not going to accept. I mean, trade is one thing, but friendship is another thing. So we're going to be ally of Taiwan. We have been for the past 50 years with Taiwan, and we will continue to be like that. But negotiation with China, no problem with that. As a matter of fact, we are a big importer from Chinese product, and despite that they don't like us to say, they are buying a lot of our soybean because our soybean is being mixed with Argentinian soybean and then go to China. So at the end, Paraguay soybean is there. But this is the key of success for a country that is in the middle. It's very small. You have to do your own task that is not have macro instability. And second, you need to integrate to the world because you are too small. Therefore, the two things are key policies that we try to promote even more with this government. And probably we will see the results of these policies going forward again on the people, on the welfare of the people.
I would like to also turn to one thing that struck with me in your presentation. You said that obviously Paraguay is a country well endowed with both hydropower and agricultural production capacity, but then you also said that we have no natural disasters. And I suppose that's true in a sort of earthquake and volcano sense.
And tornadoes.
And yes, but at the same time, when you look at the, in many ways, very concerning development on many climate indicators, record heat waves, droughts, flooding, etc. How does a country as dependent, even as you are trying to diversify, but still as dependent on agricultural exports, and therefore to a certain extent the weather, as Paraguay, how do you see the progress towards addressing climate change, both in the region and indeed globally?
First, we're a blessed country, really. I mean, yes, it's true, we have sometimes some drought, but still we're a blessed country that can produce a lot of food for many people, more than 100 million people. How we deal with that? Well, we're trying to diversify away from weather-related sectors like the agricultural. Plus, we're investing, or the private sector is the one investing in order to protect himself from weather-related disaster like drought or floods. We're doing very well on diversification. Today, around 50% of our GDP is tertiary sector. It's not anymore the agricultural. Previously, it was 40% agricultural. Right now, it's less than 10% of the GDP. So we're trying to diversify away in order to protect the economy. Now, on climate change, and this is important, there is no single country that will really, protect or put a policy that will prevent climate change. This has to be a strong effort by everyone. And we're trying to do something on that. But we're trying to do something, showing some data also that is quite important. Example, for the first time we have data on what is the situation of all the land in Paraguay. Those are satellite views, satellite pictures. And if you do an analysis, you discover that 40% of all the territory in Paraguay is covered by a natural forest. 40%. There is no country covered by 40%. Natural forest. Of course, don't ask me to protect 40% of my territory because otherwise it's going to be too impossible to develop, but we have to be responsible. We have to try to use it in a sustainable way, that 40% of natural forests we do have at this current moment. But we still are put in our contribution to prevent climate change. Second, data. We are big producer of soybean. Some people accuse many countries that you are destroying forests in order to grow soybean or wheat or whatever, corn or whatever. Thanks to the data we have right now, if you look at what is the situation between 2005 and 2022, who is the last data we have, you see that 97% of all the soybean production is being grown in a land that was not deforested since 2005. So no deforestation in order to really grow since 2005, in order to grow the soybean. In 2005, we passed a law saying that zero deforestation in one part of the country where the soybean grows. So 0%, almost 100% of the soybean is being grown in a sustainable way. You mentioned also clean and renewable energy. I mean, we are there, 2050. So it's a small country, but we are doing our job on contribute to prevent this climate change stuff. Of course, again, this is an effort that has to be done by all the countries, but I believe being that small, we are very conscious of the importance of protecting the environment for our kids, for our grandsons, our granddaughters. So we're doing our part on that.
You mentioned the importance of institutions, and I guess there's one type of institutions that I would like to focus in on, namely free trade agreements. In your presentation, I think it was pretty clear, it certainly was to me, the benefits that Paraguay has derived from much freer trade with its much larger neighbors. You gave examples of exports to both Brazil and Argentina. So I guess I would like to ask you, I don't think it's any secret to say that the internal development of Mercosur has stalled in the recent numerous years. And there has been obviously long-standing attempts of striking an external deal between Mercosur and the EU. So where do you see both of these issues going? The internal development, deepening, if you like, of Mercosur among its membership, and its ability to strike deals with large external economies?
Well, let me tell you a little bit about Mercosur first, because Mercosur always, when you read, probably 90% of the news on Mercosur is a negative news about people complaining that Mercosur is not working, that Mercosur is not moving, etc., etc. But remember the maquila, that one of the key factors for Paraguayan industry development, that is thanks to Mercosur, because thanks to Mercosur, they can go there, produce, invest, produce, and then resend free of taxes to Brazil. So for us, of course, Mercosur is not perfect, but I believe that given the pluses and the minus, for us has been a positive, net positive for Paraguay, being a small and open economy. We would like to really advance even faster on the integration of Mercosur with other economic blocs. We were trying for the last 20 years, probably, an agreement with the EU. The excuses were zillions of that. So I'm very sad that we cannot advance on that. Well, I respect that some authorities in Europe, they don't want to see us having free access to some sensitive market, like the agricultural product, because we are very competitive on that. We are, as I mentioned again, on a sustainable way, because I mentioned the fact of deforestation and soybean production. And in Paraguay, the production is being done by direct seed, I believe, direct sod, I believe, where you put just the seed over there. That is the most sustainable way to produce any harvest. And we are doing 100% in that way. So we are very competitive on a sustainable way. So I mentioned my first interview outside was with a Spanish newspaper, and I mentioned, whatever place you are not taking or occupy, in the sense of if you don't go to Mercosur, somebody else will occupy that space. And that somebody else could be China, or could be Saudi Arabia, or someone from the region. given that we're not advancing on the European Union and Mercosur agreement, during the presidency, the temporary presidency of President Peña, we advanced very much on an agreement with the Emirates. So we are almost ready to sign an agreement, Mercosur, Emirates, and we will continue to look for other agreements besides the European Union that is going nowhere. But we have been very vocal that Mercosur needs to sign agreement with more blocs, and we are going to be working with that.
Okay, we have about 10 more minutes, so I hope there are questions among the audience. Otherwise, I have many more. If you want to ask the minister a question, there is a traveling mic over here. Please identify yourself and state your question with a degree of brevity.
Thank you. My name is Cullen Hendricks. I'm here at the Institute. Thank you for joining us. First, I'd like to congratulate Paraguay on hitting a target of 100% renewable electricity. That is a very big deal. I have two questions. The second one is going to relate back to hydropower. The first is that many of your neighbors are playing very large roles in providing critical minerals for global energy transitions. It's my understanding that Paraguay has some resources for some of these minerals, in addition to diamonds and gold. Do you see that there is a path forward for Paraguay to play a larger role in the renewable energy space as a source for these materials? And then the second question is, what is the outlook under the various climate change scenarios for Paraguay's continued ability to generate this hydropower and be able to have a surplus that's exportable to your neighboring countries? Thank you.
Let me answer in a more general way your first question, because this is something I share with Ilan Golfand, who is the president of the IDB. Latin America is part of the solution to the many challenges the world has. And of course, Paraguay being part of Latin America, we are part of the solution that the world has at this moment. What are those challenges? First, food security. Second, material for the green energy transition. And third, biodiversity. Because I was reading the other day in El País, 60% of all the biodiversity in the world is in Latin America, and part of that is in Paraguay too. So the three things we are willing to continue to support or to really be a solution of the challenge that the world is facing at this moment. On the issue of minerals that could be important for the future for the energy transition, there are some exploration at this moment in order to see if we have the lithium, as Bolivia have, and some other important materials that could be important for the energy transition going forward. And of course, I'm crossing my finger that the private sector, who is more efficient, will go there, explore, and finally find. And of course, we're going to be open for them to come there, do the investment, and facilitate the work with the minerals that are important for the energy transition. On the issue of hydropower, we pass a law right now where not only the National Agency of Energy will be able to build new hydro plants. We are blessed. We have so many rivers. Of course, none of them is big enough in order to produce another Itaipu, that is the largest dam in the world. But they are enough to start producing some hydropower dams that will produce for some cities, etc., etc. On top of that, we have passed a law, and right now we're changing the amount of time where you can actually be able to do that business. Instead of being 10 years, we are extending that for 30 years. For the private sector to have the incentive in order to do alternative energy production, like solar energy. I mean, the bad thing is the draw. The good thing is solar. So we are a country where in some sector you have by far more than 200 days of this weather here with all this sun. So those sectors in the country are really suitable for us to start producing solar energy. So we are thinking in something more than just hydropower. We are trying to promote the private sector participation in order to generate more and more energy, but not only hydropower.
Thank you, Mr. Minister, for your very succinct and upbeat presentation. I think we all learned quite a bit, and I know John Williamson is smiling from above, looking down on you and the success you're bringing to Paraguay, but the work you still have to do. My question relates to your interest in integration, and you've talked about integration in the region and with EU, Mercosur, less so with across the Pacific. The CPTPP, the former Trans-Pacific Partnership, is now undergoing a review looking at how to expand membership and how to expand its substantive coverage, particularly in the area of climate change. And I put two and two together and say, this would be another opportunity for Paraguay. Look into participation with the major economies in the CPTPP agreement, which will soon include the UK, and perhaps be able to lend expertise to promote new rules on trade and climate change. So it would be another avenue to secure greater exposure, visibility, and perhaps trade and investment. Your comments, please.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about that opportunity, but for sure, now that I know, we are going to explore, because again, our incentive is to be more integrated with the world. And regarding climate change, in Latin America, it's not controversial. It's an issue that some people want to put as a left-wing topic, trying to avoid that. But being that I'm from Chicago, I have the luxury of talking about climate change, and nobody will say that I'm leftist. So really, after saying that, and after showing you at least part of what we are doing for the Green Paraguay, or with the Green Paraguay, of course, I would love to explore that. And if that is going to lead, again, to more integration, more trade with other parts of the world, we are happy to explore that opportunity.
I think we have time for one more question. So I have one, if nobody else has. Oh, there, please.
Good morning, Minister. Jimena Rojas from IDB Invest. I would like to get your perspective on the development of local capital markets with the newly obtained investment grade, and also if you could expand on some initiatives from the government to help more companies fund their operations through local bond issuances. Thank you.
I went very fast on the presentation. One crucial point on our policy was to really not only improve the local market in order to get more resources for the government, but also to develop in order to be easier for the private sector also to raise some income in order to do all the investment they need. We were able not only to improve the amount of money or bond that we're issuing over there, but we were also able to issue for the first time ever a Guarani bond, a national currency bond in New York in February. And that was fantastic, outstanding for any country issuing, and especially when you look at the interest rate, because sometimes it's very easy to do whatever you want, but you pay a very high price. In this point in time, we were thinking, and I was asking my bank's advisor about issuing in Guaraníes, and they say, yes, you can do it. I mean, Dominican Republic did it, so you have to pay around 12% interest rate. And I say, no way. I have my reference at home, so I'm not going to move from the reference I have at home. But this is New York, it's not associated, I don't care. Then I'm going to go there, and I'm going to issue there. So we're fighting over there at the end of the year. At the end of the deal, we were able to place 500 million in Guarani bonds. We had demand for 1.2 billion. We were able to place only 500 because we have a restriction on the deficit. Therefore, we cannot issue whatever we want because we don't need all the money. The interest rate was 7.9%. and right now probably it's trading at 7.3 after being investment grade. So we are showing the way for the private sector to really issue or go through the same process as we did as a sovereign. Sovereign, what was the deal? At the beginning, only working with multilateral and then go to the market, issue in dollars, and then right now, going to the market, I issue in local currency also. So the same thing has to be done with the private sector. Of course, the IDB is going to be important because it's the private sector branch of a multilateral. So we're trying to put together you and the private sector in Paraguay. I know that you are working together with them, also the IFC from the World Bank, working together with the private sector for some opportunity. After that, I'm going to start pushing the private sector. Okay, don't be shy. Go to the market. Go to the market in US dollar at the beginning is going to be easier. But anyway, my information is that there is still appetite for instrument in Guaraníes in the global market in New York and London. So that is an opportunity not only for the private sector, but it's also an opportunity for you, the IDB Invest, and also for the IFC, because then you can take a liability in Guaraníes, and then you can place as an asset in Guaraníes at home. So nobody will have the currency risk, only the investor in New York or London, but they love the interest rate. So we open this door that is going to be important for the development of the country, and it's a great opportunity for the private sector also going forward in order to get another way to financing themselves their investment.
Well, thank you very, very much, Minister Fernández. We are at our witching hour, and I would like, on behalf of the Peterson Institute, to very much thank you for joining us today and really bringing an example of successful policy making that can be replicated. I think this is important, that can be replicated by other countries in the region and indeed the world. This is quite a rarity these days. And to our viewers around the world, I will say this was another iteration of our Peterson Institute Macro Week. We will commence again at 2 p.m. Eastern Time for a presentation by the Central Bank Governor of Finland, Olli Rehn. Until then, please join me in thanking Minister Gonzalez for his time.
Thank you very much.